Hey, what's up, guys? First F1 conversation post F1 race video I'm going to do, and I felt like this is the right time to do it. Have a little spare time to go ahead and record this video, and you know what? I want to start getting into F1 post race conversations and analysis, and getting into just talking about F1 and what's going on, and this is the perfect opportunity. So, anyone who follows F1 right now knows there are a litany of things going on in the sport that have become incredibly entertaining. As a fan of the sport, as a recent fan, post Drive to Survive, I mean, I kind of watched it when I was a kid, played the video games, but didn't really know anything outside of Michael Schumacher. Drive to Survive Season 1 comes out, and then it instantly hooks me back in. It starts to show me all those things I missed. It introduces me to drivers and characters and teams that I needed to understand to get back into the sport, and I've been addicted back ever since. So I am thankful for that series, thankful for all the episodes they put out, and looking forward to the next season, because this season, oh my goodness, if it's anything compared to last season, which it has been, it's going to be epic. So what the hell's going on with F1? So we've got a litany of things happening. We've got drivers that are signing but not signing, drivers that have decided to retire, and some have decided to move on. We've got teams that aren't as competitive as they should be. We've got bonehead mistakes by another team. Just a confluence of events that are happening that have us in the summer break going, oh my goodness, I can't wait until the season picks back up. Let's dive into that. So, first, most recently, and let's start with this. Sebastian Vettel decides, you know what, I'm going to retire. One of the greatest. One of the top racers in F1 history. 4-time champion, Ferrari driver, Red Bull driver. Now decides, you know what, it's time for me to hang it up. And he's had an incredible career. Anytime you win one world championship, it's amazing. You win 2, you're great. 3 and 4, you're a lifetime one of the greatest ever. Up there with the Ayrton Sennas and the Alain Prost and the Michael Schumachers, and what he has done in his career is second to none. So it's going to be sad to see you go. I wasn't a fan during your best of years, but I have enjoyed what you've become in the time I've seen you. You're feisty. He's going to go for the win. He still has a talent, though, which is crazy. But, you know, in sports, retirement in a person's 30s just sounds crazy, because I'm 40 and I'm just like, man, these guys are retiring from sports, and I'm older than them. I'm older than Lewis Hamilton. I'm older than Sebastian Vettel. I'm as old as Fernando Alonso. So many of these drivers that are retiring obviously had great careers and millions of dollars in the bank. So Sebastian Vettel, going to be sad to see you go, and all of the things that you stand for as a person. With that being said, his retirement and leaving Aston Martin, has led to Fernando Alonso deciding, you know what, I'm done here at Alpine. I'm going to step on out and I'm going to go to Aston Martin. And he does this, and Alpine really doesn't have a clue, because they wanted Alonso to come back. And why wouldn't you? I mean, let's be honest. Had not been for the car and the litany of issues it's had with reliability, I mean, he'd have much more points. He is still got tons of talent left. And at 41, he's not holding anybody's seat. He's not taking a seat from anybody. He's still got talent. So for him to move to Aston Martin, little surprised, to be honest, because when I think about it, he could do great at Alpine. And I think they would give him the world. But they've had some reliability issues, and I think Fernando's at that point where he just wants to drive in a competitive car, and I think he believes Aston Martin and Lawrence Stroll are going to spend a ton of money, but he still has to be with the Strolls. And to be honest, Lance is not the best of drivers. He's not the worst, but he's there because his dad owns a team, and he'll be given as many chances as is necessary to race in F1. With that being said, Fernando sad to see him leave Alpine because I think he could do great things there, but I'm anxious to see what he's going to do at Aston Martin. And again, Alpine had no clue that he was leaving. They were ready to sign him for a much longer deal, but you know what? Actually, I want to sign him for a 1 year deal and prepare the way for Oscar Piastri. But that didn't work. So, you know, Fernando looked at it and said, we know Aston Martin's going to sign me to multi-year deal, and who wouldn't take that deal? So, off to Aston Martin. So then Alpine goes out and puts out, hey, Oscar Piastri, he is going to be our F1 driver for next season. Essentially, we're glad to have him. He's been with us for a little bit of time. He's the former F3 and F2 champion. He's our reserve driver. So naturally, you'd presume Oscar would jump at this. He'd be excited, like, let's go. I got my seat for next year. Let's get started. Let's figure out things and how we're going to move forward. 9 races left in this season. He'd be the F1 driver next season coming out. Well, that's not necessarily the case because Alpine put their foot in their mouth. Or did they? I don't know. You tell me. But he goes out there and says, wait a minute, I didn't sign with them. Unbeknownst to me, they put out a tweet about me racing, and it's not true. No different than the IndyCar racer, and I can't remember his name, so forgive me, who says the same thing. Like, these people putting out that I'm racing for them next season, I am not. I'm not racing for them, and frankly, it's like I can't believe they even said that I was. There's been no contract signed, and I wonder if this is because he's looking to sign with other teams, or if he's looking to have a bigger payday, or if he wants more control. Because we are in the era of player/driver empowerment, and in some ways I'm totally for that. In other ways, it's annoying. It's like when you're a person who doesn't make $100 million a year, or 20 or 10 or $1 million a year. It's kind of like, yeah. And to me, Oscar, as much as I understand you have immense talent, you have yet to do anything in F1. So it kind of makes you look at it like, where does he get off? But again, you only get one time to drive. And if you have the power or any bit of leverage, I understand taking it. Again, I just wonder how much leverage he actually has. And maybe he has more than we know just because Alpine now needs a driver. Albeit, I think there's some drivers I'd love to see in that seat. I think Nick DeVries, the reserve driver over at Mercedes, sounds like a viable choice as well. So I think there are options out there, and you've got some F2 drivers that are coming up. I'd love to see Logan Sargent as an American. I'd love to see him in the seat and get the opportunity. I'd love to see Jamie Chadwick get a chance to race an F2. I know that's a touchy subject for many. Speaking of Jamie Chadwick, I'd love to see her in F2 simply because people say, well, if she was James Chadwick, we'd never hear about him because James Chadwick wouldn't be as good. But James Chadwick would be racing in F3 with other men honing his skills. Jamie Chadwick is relegated to racing in the W Series with only women. So you can't compare the two. Additionally, I know that she had raced in some other series, and she started out well. She finished 3rd in her first race, if I'm not mistaken. They had some car reliability issues, and she did not do as hot, which happens. But again, I think there's talent there. But at the end of the day, if I'm Formula One racing, one, I give her a chance because the marketing itself. And if we know F1 is about anything, it's about money. So you can market your first woman in F2. Why not? No different than many other leagues giving people who don't deserve a chance or who have talent, but the marketing is even larger, and give them a chance. So why not? But again, I know that's a touchy subject, and by all means, leave comments below. So we've got Oscar Piastri, who saying he's not signing. We have the IndyCar driver as well. Which again, is McLaren at the center of all of this? Interesting. Because now we've got Daniel Ricciardo, who I don't know what is going on with him, but he is either a shell of himself since leaving Alpine, or really since leaving Red Bull, or maybe we just overhyped who we think he actually is. Now, granted, I did not see his early career, But Red Bull's a hell of a team. So only naturally he'd be good in a Red Bull car. But are we overhyping just how good he really is? Because he kind of ran from a fight with Max, because Max is a once-in-a-lifetime generation. Max, Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, like these are once-in-a-lifetime type of racers. And if you give them the car that they need, then they're going to do amazing things. And they are able to take the little minute things out of the car and put it in places where sometimes it should not be. Max is one of those. Lando, I mean, oh my God, that kid is amazing. George Russell, Charles Leclerc, I put him in that same category, albeit he's made some bonehead mistakes this year, but we'll get to that as well. But Daniel, I don't know if he deserves to be an F1, because his performances the last 2 years, and albeit he did win that race in Monza last year, let's be honest, he shouldn't have won that race. If they would have let McLaren race, Lando would have passed him. I have no doubt in that. And Lando would have won that race. Lando's pace is significantly better than that of Daniel. Daniel has all the fanfare, but Lando is the rising star. And he is going to do no wrong in the eyes of McLaren, and anybody, if McLaren ever decided to let him go, would pick him up in a heartbeat. Lando will not want for seats anytime soon. So you look at Daniel and you wonder, in McLaren, are you behind the Oscar Piastri nonsense? No different than you may be behind the nonsense with the IndyCar driver. And by all means, in the comments, leave below a name, and I'll look it up after I'm done this, because I swear to God I know his name, but it's on the tip of my tongue and I cannot remember it. But anyway, McLaren, I look at you and I think, good Lord, you're involved in everything. You are, in many ways, you have an American who's running the McLaren racing team. So it only makes sense that you're moving in American type ways, because man, you are in the middle of everything. And it just makes me sit here as an American and go, good Lord, like, can we figure this out properly? Like, I mean, I understand wanting to get excellent race car drivers, but this is beyond anything I would have imagined. So will Daniel be at McLaren next year? I don't know. Does he deserve a seat at McLaren? Based on his performances? Absolutely not. But it's no different than Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki was signed to AlphaTauri. When that seat opened up, they moved him in. And does he deserve his seat? Because he is so erratic. And in year 2 is where you need to be making strides. You need to be getting better. You need to be proving that you deserve that seat. So they put Yuki in that seat after Alex Albon, like, they moved Alex and Pierre Gasly, and Red Bull's just litany of nonsense. So now Yuki's in that seat. Does he deserve that seat? Does Yuki move? Do they bring... Now, granted, Alex Albon signed a multi-year contract with Williams. Does Alex ever end back up at Red Bull? Because I love Alex. He's one of my favorite drivers, and I think he's a misunderstood talent who went from AlphaTauri, jumped into Red Bull rather quickly, and they expected him to move mountains in the world. And let's be honest, if not a few run-ins with my favorite driver, Lewis Hamilton, he'd have some podiums to his name that were well-deserved. So, again, Alex Albon signs with Williams, and there's a lot of young talent in F1 right now that is absolutely amazing. So again, Yuki, Daniel, Oscar, Fernando leaving, a convergence of events that started with Sebastian Vettel. So now we'll see what's going to happen and how it's going to play out. And I'm excited to see. What the hell's going on with Ferrari? Oh my goodness. Anybody who's watching F1 or who loves racing and who's glanced at F1, you would see that Ferrari, perhaps having the best car on the field, and many times watching F1 races, many people believe they have the best car in the field, just can't seem to get it right. There are reliability issues, strategy issues galore, Issues with, Carlos Sainz wanting to win his first race, but, you know, Charles Leclerc is really, he's the lead on that team, and he's the one right now who's in a championship fight. And to be honest, they need to prioritize Charles Leclerc over anything and everyone. But it almost seems like they're not willing to do that because they want to give both drivers. But if you want to win the title and you want your driver at Ferrari to win the world title, then that's what you kind of need to do. Red Bull, albeit Sergio early on was in the mix, but as things have gone on, they now realize, Sergio, you're not in the running for the title. Let's look at the point spread, and Max is pulling away. Again, Max is a once-in-a-lifetime talent, so yeah, it only makes sense. So Ferrari, again, what were you doing at Hungary? I mean, if you can explain the strategy, and the answer you gave doesn't make any sense. You thought that the hards would initially be slow, but they would grain in, and then they would pick up pace, and then you'd be fine. But we had just seen Alpine earlier put on the hards, and it was absolutely atrocious. You responded to an undercut you didn't have to. In all honesty, yes, you started off on mediums because you saw, okay, Georgia starting off on softs. Let's start off on mediums so that we can run a little bit longer. As his softs start to wane, we can pull away, stretch a gap because he's going to have to pit before us, and you would stretch your first stint, which you did. Then your second stint, you pit Charles Leclerc, who's in second place. Eventually, he comes out and leads the race ahead of Carlos Sainz. Meanwhile, Max is climbing up, and obviously, you put Charles back on mediums, or Charles. So you put him back on mediums, and again, smart, awesome, great strategy so far. Well, then you pit him again early to respond to an undercut. Doesn't make any sense. And you pit him onto hards, which we had just seen with Alpine was actually the worst tire choice to make. It was so bad for Charles that he ended up getting eaten up and finishing P6. It was easy pickings for him. And you look at Ferrari and just wonder, what are you doing? You are throwing away a season in which you should dominate, a season in which you actually designed a hell of a good car. Yes, you still have some porpoising issues, but not nearly as bad as Mercedes was. And your car, whatever reason, they step on that brake, it hugs the road, it turns, it's quick, it's fast, it's nimble in corners, and you've got an engine with output that is great. And yet you have bit yourself in the foot time after time after time. It kind of makes you look at it and go, you're just giving the title away. Now, granted, we have 9 races left. Who knows what happens? Spa is a track like no other. It is a track I love to race in iRacing. It is a track that I love to watch. It is going to be an interesting race. But now you have Mercedes on your tail. You have Mercedes who couldn't figure out their car in the first part of the season. Now, after the summer break, feeling much more confident, with upgrades that are going to come that should hopefully make their car far more competitive. In fact, at the last race, had Lewis been able to actually get through Q3 without any problems, could potentially have finished P1 and could have potentially have won the race. And again, I'm excited about that because I'm a huge Mercedes fan. With that being said, Red Bull, I have to give you credit. Again, you designed a hell of a car. Even though there are times I cannot stand Christian Horner, Max, you can be a little annoying, but I respect the hell out of Max and his talent. It is great. Christian, you get on my nerves because you're such a hypocrite. You get on Mercedes about things, or you get upset when people want to say, well, wait a minute, we did porpoising right. We don't have any porpoising in our car. Why should we be penalized? No different than penalizing Mercedes when you thought, well, they've got DAS, which they cleared with the FIA. Well, their engine modes we brought them back to the pack. You've done everything to want Mercedes to come back to the pack so that it would give Red Bull and a competitor a much better chance at winning. And some of the regulations that were put into place after the last few years were to bring Mercedes back to the pack so they wouldn't just run away with titles every year. And I understand this from a fan standpoint. You want a competitive season. But you can't become a hypocrite. You can't complain about the one thing that they're doing and bringing them back to the pack and then now complain that it's happening to you. That's very hypocritical. But again, F1, they're all hypocritical, let's be honest. Lastly, Michael Massey signed an NDA. Wow. Whenever you sign an NDA and you're no longer part of F1, they're not wanting you to talk about what happened because they know what you did. Again, at that Abu Dhabi race, totally was against any regulation that F1 has. In fact, that they've cleared it up this year by writing and clarifying that entire rule. So, what the hell is going on with F1? It's entertaining. It's fun. It's great. In fact, I'm looking forward to the start after the summer break. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see what shakes out. I'm excited with the driver moves and driver empowerment. I'm excited to see how this all plays out for next year. I'm excited for Drive to Survive to come out because, let's be honest, I wouldn't be as big of a fan as I am if Drive to Survive never came out. I'm loving the fact that F1 is growing in the Americas, and I am looking forward to that Vegas race next year so much. I will be there. My wife and I will have some fun, and I'm excited about that. So hopefully you've enjoyed this first F1 conversation, F1 overview. I plan on doing more post F1 race analysis or conversations later as the season goes on. I figured I needed to add more elements to this podcast and this show because, let's be honest, I'm having a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun reviewing some of the products I've purchased. The one that was given to me, I had fun using that and reviewing that. I'm having fun with being on YouTube. It is interesting. If you're enjoying the content that I'm sharing, as always, comment, thumbs up, share it with your friends. Go ahead and hit that subscribe link and turn on those notifications. I look forward to being able to chat with all of you again soon. I'm also possibly looking for somebody to possibly join me on these F1 post-race chats. If that is you and you would like to do something, let me know. Because I enjoy the sport. I enjoy the games. We'll have some more racing up on the channel. Let me know if you want to see some other racing games or content on there, whether it's Assetto Corsa, whether it's F1 2022, whether it's R Factor or anything else. I think I might jump into some Assetto Corsa because I do miss GT racing. I'd like to do it on iRacing, but I don't want to mess with my iRating because I've finally gotten close to the 2,000 mark. And right now I'm racing only in Formula cars. So now racing with the aliens and the top split can be annoying at times, but I'm enjoying the ranking just going up. I'm looking forward to getting over that 2,000 mark and then heading and fighting to get to 3,000. Not easy because, as you know, with iRacing, there are idiots, but I know I'll get there. So as always, again, if you enjoy the content, go ahead and hit that subscribe link. Go ahead and join me on the ride. Go ahead and watch the racing videos, the racing feedback. Go ahead and watch the F1 stuff that I post as well as all the racing. Again, I enjoyed this conversation. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I will chat with you later. Peace.